G'day YouTube, my name's Lance and welcome to Bundy Bear's Shed. Well, this is just a quick video on the 135 Multipower. I bought this tractor a little while ago now, and I bought it off a farmer. He'd sold his farm out and came and saw me, and I decided to buy the tractor off him. Now, the reason we're doing this tractor up, apart from being a classic tractor fiddler, I'm going to do it up for a road run tractor. Now, in Australia we do tractor treks, and I notice in other countries you do them as well, but a tractor trek in Australia, my friend Ian did one probably 2 years ago now for 2,000 kilometres, and and just recently they've done a Flinders Ranges trek, which was for 10 days, up all through the mountains, and beautiful scenery, and you get catered for it at some of the outback places and things like that. So we've been on a couple, the local ones here, if we're not taking the Golden Grey down to have a coffee downtown, and then we often go for a run along the river, and it may be 50 kilometres, 60 kilometres by we get home. And we've done recent ones up through the forestry where we put the tractors on our trailers and we head out, and Mondo's about 2 hours drive, 2.5 hours drive northwest of us, where we are in Bundy, Australia, and we did about 80, probably 90, it was about 89 k's round trip, I think. 189, I'm sorry. So we did about 90 kilometres one day, then we camped and had a social occasion, then we come back through, and then we went up through the forestry in four-wheel drive, quite steep tracks, to have a look at some old chimneys from a copper smelter, and then come back down and went home, and that was just an overnighter, and that was around 190 kilometres for the weekend. That's just on the tractors, and about 250, 300 kilometres to get there. So on my little gold FE35 that we take along, on that track, on that trip, it used around 16 litres of fuel for the day, and we sit on around 20 kilometres an hour, which is about 16 mile an hour. Most tractors seem to like that, but this 135 Multipower, we're actually going to do it up as a tractor tractor. So in a couple of instances we're going to go away from standard. If we think something's a little bit better for purpose, we're going to go that way. You may see down around here there's no mudguard. You can see the other mudguard, it's half rotted out, and I have taken the axles out and I've done the axle bearings already. But this is just an introduction to the tractor to show you what we plan on doing to it. Some of the parts we've bought for it already. We do have a lot of parts here, and we're also doing this right next to where we're doing a 135 6-speeder, so right from scratch. So a little bits will cross over in those jobs. I'll film doing the axles. They're a later axle. It's around a 1971 model tractor with a 3-cylinder Perkins, an AD3152, which means a direct injection 3-cylinder Perkins, 152 cubic inch, and by all accounts they're a great little tractor. It's a Multipower. Now the Multipower gearbox, we have a little lever here, and that more or less gives you another range, another gear range. And the reason I've chose a Multipower tractor for a tractor trek tractor is with the back tyres, according to the operator's book, at 2,200 engine revs with 11.228 tyres, that should give us, in high multipower, in top gear, high multipower, should give us around 36 kilometres an hour. Now, in comparison to that, my little gold tractor here that I've opened up just a little bit, I can do around 25 kilometres an hour flat to the boards, but it's comfortable doing about 20. You're not wringing its neck. So when you're on one of these runs, you hang with the slowest person. So if you have a little grey Fergie that's pushing along at 19, 20 kilometres an hour, we all try and go a similar speed. sometimes the slower tractors go out the front and people just poke along behind. So what the high multi-power does for us in that regard is if we've been somewhere and we want to get home in a hurry, we can crack her open and have high speed. If we're going on a couple of day run and we're doing a lot of miles up and over and through some mountain ranges and things like that, we can just flick the low multi down, or the main advantage will be that we can keep the 20-25 kilometre an hour speed range going at probably 1300 revs or something like that. So the idea is that you can idle the engine back. The engine's not working, it's not doing any hard labour at all, and you use not much fuel. Some of these places we have to carry our own fuel, so it's not uncommon to have a setup on the back or a carry-all with jerry cans on the back, which you know, the 20 litre fuel cans, and some of the blokes, I haven't been on a real long one, but some of the blokes are carrying a tank full of fuel, which is 35 to 45 litres depending on the model, and they will cart 100 litres of fuel on the back with them. And so there's just nothing out there. There's no shops, there's no little service stations, there's nothing. You're out in the bush or in the forest, whatever you like, from whichever country you come from, you'll have a different word for that. But so what's our plan with the tractor? Our plan with the tractor is to pop all the axle bearings out. We'll replace all the axle seals. We don't want leaky brakes or anything like that. So we're going to replace all the axle seals. We'll pop the trumpet housing off, have a quick look at the diff bearings. Usually the diff bearings on these tractors are fine. There's no need to worry. The left-hand final drive on this tractor, where the brake rod goes in, there's a Welsh plug in there, that's fallen out, so we have to pull that final drive housing off. Under the final drive housing where the arms bolt on, it's category 1 link pins there. We may put a strut down onto them. We're taking the linkage arms off. We may put a strut to them, but we're going to put category 2 arms, pins there. So category 1 lower link is 7/8 of an inch, category 2 is 1 1/8. So the pins coming out of the final drives, we're going to beef them up. The old ones are quite worn anyway. The back of the tractor here, we're not going to have the linkage arms on it. We're going to actually build a box coming out from the final drive. It'll be a fixed thing, and the idea of that is some of this rough terrain, when you're going on some of these dirt roads and like some of the creek beds we've been through, you know, you have rocks like this to crawl over and you're just in low gear. And when last time I had the carry-all on the back of the goal tractor, and you'd go up one way and go bump across and bump across the other way, which you can tighten up with sway chains and things, but some of the blokes on the long treks have had trouble with pins in carry-alls breaking and things like that. So it's not like just a run to town to do the Christmas parade or anything like that. Some of it gets a bit extreme. So we're going to build a carry-all, a fixed carry-all out the back. Now on the top cover here, I think you can see, I'll swing you around there a little bit. The bolt on that roll frame there is seized in. I'm having trouble getting that. I have to get the oxy on it. But we're going to take this hydraulic top cover off and store it. I'm doing nothing to the tractor that I can't put back to standard. Say with a weekend's work, put it back to standard. So I'm 6 foot 2 inches and a big bloke. Yes. I'm going to take the top cover off. What that does, we're going to put a steel plate on top of where that lift cover comes off, and that will let me move the seat back a bit further so I have a more comfortable leg position. I find by the time I have my legs here and push out the front here, it's I get a bit cramped. So I'm going to put a comfortable seat on it and move the seat back. So all this linkage arm and all that will be taken off and stored. The diff lock, we're going to look at the diff lock. It's fine. It didn't have a lower dash panel, so I've bought a new lower dash panel. So that'll go on in under here when the time comes. All the things I take off it, we're going to store in our pallet racking here. So at any time later, I can just pop the linkage arms back on, pop the lift cover on, and we have a standard tractor to sell, to work or whatever we like. So we're not wrecking it, we're just making it fit for purpose. So that's coming off. We're going to have an angle fridge on it and a few things like that. The round mud guards there on this tractor, I've actually got some square mud guards, and the reason we're going square mud guards is the 135 did have square mud guards over here in Australia, and with the wider mud guard it gives you a flat place and it gives you better protection if you get caught in wet weather. With the carryall out the back coming out to cover the tyres and the square top, that keeps the driver a bit drier. We are going to have a roll frame on it with a canopy, and some of this we have to carry everything that we need. So we're going to have a camp stretcher and a swag and a little four-wheel drive 4x4 awning coming off the side. So when we camp out in the bush, we got a little bit of shelter. So the back end, the brakes are going to have all new brake shoes. I buy brake shoes from Quality Tractor Parts in Ireland, and they have a rubber impregnated compound in one of their brakes. I've used them on the Gold tractor, which is my main trekking tractor at the moment, and look, it's great. You spend a little bit of time setting the brakes up properly. Of course, on the road you have your pedals locked together, so on my tractor I can head down the gravel driveway, stamp on the brakes, lock the wheels up, then measure it all, and look, we're dead straight. So brakes are an important part of this, and so it'll have all new brake shoes, new axle seals and all that sort of thing on it. Now the multi-power gearbox, because it worked as a farm tractor, it actually had bins of sweet potatoes and things like that on the back, and with the multi-power, when you flick the multi-power in low, it's a low range but you have no engine braking. And what was happening was they were putting people on this tractor on the hills, and they'd think they were going slow, so they'd lock it in low multi and they'd head down a bank. There'd be no engine braking, you had to rely on your brakes, and they weren't real good. I've pulled them apart and they're not the best brakes I've ever seen. So what happened is they got one of the local Massey Ferguson mechanics to bypass the multi-power. So what that consists of is there's a little 40 odd mil spacer in the bottom shaft, and you strip the gearbox, you put this spacer in, and you can just lock it in. And so I want the multi-power to work, so we're going to split the tractor here and up here, and we're going to pull the gearbox out, and we're going to run through the gearbox, and we're going to get that multi-power working again. Whatever it takes, we'll do. They've taken the little rod that goes from here down to the bottom, they've taken that off, so I'll probably have to find a wrecked tractor to get that back. While we have the engine off, Quality Tractor Parts actually sent me a seal to try, and it's a full piece, full lip rear main seal, and I've never fitted one before, and it seems a good idea. The old rope seal can be, look, they're not really troublesome. If you know how to fit them and you soak them overnight and all that, you can get a rear rope seal to fit nicely. But look, they just sent me this. We sell their parts, you know, I own Queensland Tractor Spares, so we do sell Quality Tractor Parts spares, and they just sent it over and said, here, look, here's this new thing we got, you want to fit it, you know, tell us what you think. So I'm going to put it in this tractor just to try it out. When we get to the clutch, we'll look at the clutch, maybe pop it apart just to make sure. The thing about this tractor is going to be reliability, and all gauges are going to be new. The steering box is going to be looked at. It's a power steering model, and you can see with the power steering model, see the piece goes up and down here, and that moves the control valve on the steering. We're going to visit that. The power steering works reasonably well on it. The steering hoses that go out to the cylinders, I have new ones of them sitting here. They'll be put on after I blow a bit of paint over it. The generator is going to come off, and we're going to put an alternator on. Now, the reason we're going to put an alternator on is if you get caught out in the dark, the standard Fergie generators put out about 11 amps. we have to be registered and we have to have a flashing light, a rotating beacon that can be seen from all directions. If you put an LED one on, you're only drawing 1 or 2 amps, but if you put the old type one, the old rotating beacon with the quartz halogen bulb in it, and you have 2 quartz halogen 55 watt headlights, well, you're on 13-14 amps or something, I worked out. So we put a 70 amp alternator on our tractors. The gold one's got one on. Look, if it's a show tractor, I've got a 48 Fergie T20. We're just going to keep it as original as we can, 6 volt, do the whole thing, and it's one of our show tractors we'll take and show. But the tractors we want to drive around, we want them reliable. Nowadays we want to be able to, as we drive along, we want to charge our mobile phones. We run a GPS sometimes, and the GPS is just so we can track where we've been. And I have a phone app that I use. Because we changed rear tyre sizes and things like that, I use a GPS phone app to tell us how fast we're going. And that gives us just interesting data on our trips, our average speed, how many hours we've been driving, our elevation above sea level, all that sort of stuff. So in this day and age, we like to do little things like that, and the generator just won't cut it. Behind the seat here, right at my seat, there's going to be a platform there, and there's going to be a 40 litre angle fridge there. That takes power. When we camp overnight, there'll probably be a little LED under the canopy. It is having a canopy on it. In Australia, the rain isn't a problem normally. It's usually the sun, and you sit out there in the sun all day at 35, 30 degrees, 40 degrees, in there somewhere, you'll fry. And a couple of the blokes have like balaclava looking things they wear, and I got a bit of a bloody white balaclava here, so it's only half of one. So look, we're going to, I always put a canopy on the top. For a registered tractor in Australia, you must have a mirror, we must have a horn, and a flashing light, that's it, yeah. And if the tractor didn't have indicators originally, it doesn't need them. This tractor's going to have indicators and brake lights. Just a safety thing. Sometimes we get on busier roads, and the gold tractor, I haven't got them on, and we just use hand signals, but there's usually a group of us and someone at the back has indicators. There is usually a tail end Charlie, we call it, a tractor or a truck or something like that at the back end with a sign saying slow vehicles ahead. So the front axle on this tractor, it's been extended, longer kingpins sometimes, so it's put it way up high. The job doesn't look very good. It's a bit of a home done looking job. So we're going to replace the kingpins with the standard ones. The kingpin housings are getting replaced, and on cleaning it up and pressure cleaning it, the main front bolster that your front axle pivots in, that's been broken sometime and brazed all back in, so I have a new one of them there. So we're not mucking around with this tractor. The bonnet's buggered, we're getting a new bonnet. The fuel tank's had a tree dropped across it sometime. We have a new fuel tank there for it. We're going to put a weight base on the front of it, and because we're going remote, we're going to have a stiff bar for towing incorporated under the tractor, just a bit of 2-inch box that we can extend, and if I break down, one of my friends breaks down, we're going to have tow points front and rear of each tractor, so if we end up in a bit of a dicky situation and someone's tractor stops and it still can be towed, we're going to build that in, build a bit of redundancy in, so if we need to be towed somewhere, we can. It'll have headlights and all that sort of thing on it. The muffler, on the gold tractor I had a downswept exhaust, then when I put the canopy on and got out on the road, it gave us a drumming sound. So I thought it mightn't be bad to have a downswept exhaust on this diesel, but I do have one I can play with, so that'll be a work in progress. Normally that muffler there, that's just a cheapie, and you'll find that when the canopy's on, that doesn't actually clear the canopy, so we usually cut them off and get an extension piece put on. The tyres on the back, I was saying about the speed of the tractor with the 11.2 28s on it. Now 11.2 28s, which was the standard in the book, gives you 36 kilometres an hour. We have a set of wider rims here, and we're going to put 14.9 28s on. So they're so much wider, great footprint, give a bit more cushioning, and that'll sit the tractor up higher. And we've worked out in high multi-power at 22 to 2500 RPM. We're going to govern it back, and we should be able to do about 45 kilometres an hour. Now, like I say, that's not something you do all day. It's just you have the capability if you want to get somewhere in a hurry, or once you've been to a parade or something like that, you can flick him in top and scoot home quickly. So that's to take the load off the tractor. Now, the front wheels, at the moment the tractor has 616s on the front. Now, because we're putting the larger rolling radius at the back, and I don't want the extended kingpins, I want standard kingpins, I have a John Deere 420 I've done up over here, and it's got 750 16s on. We're going to see if we can run the 750 16s just for the tractor stance to keep it level, get a better look to the tractor overall. And once again, a bigger rolling radius, you don't feel the bumps as much and things like that. So look, we'll go handheld for a moment. I'll take you for a quick walk around the tractor. Time for me to stop flapping my gums. I'll show you some of the parts we have. I've got a roll frame set up on a stand over here with a square mudguard. I've been doing a lot of background work on this tractor, and like I say, I've pulled the brakes off and things like that. So we're going to start filming all our exercises from now on in. I do have some footage, like I say, of doing the axle bearings, and as we pull the top off and as we do the multi-power box and all, we'll film that. When I bought this tractor to work out what condition it was in, I put a 5-foot slasher on the back, and we have 8 acres of land here, and we slash about 6 acres, or top it. I think you call them toppers overseas, we call them slashers in Australia. And I've slashed that paddock probably 8 or 10 times now. The engine runs fine, it's not smoky, it starts easily, hydraulics work well. There's not a lot wrong with it apart from this gearbox I'd like to fix and check the power steering out and things like that. You can hear the creaking in the shed. My big old shed here creaks a little bit, but that's fine, we don't worry about that. But most of my videos have some if you listen. So look, I'll go handheld, we'll go for a quick walk around and just show you the plan of the tractor, show you some of the things we've bought, and then we'll just get into part 1, part 2, and we'll go from there. And we'll try and keep a video record of what we've done. And look, I don't know how long it's going to take. The 6-speed here is probably taken a year now. But we've got the engine done, we've got the gearbox done. Today, hopefully we're going to film putting the diff in, but that's another story. So anyway, stay with us, we'll go for a walk. Okay, around the back end here, you can see I've got the axle out, and we've started working out how we're going to do the bracket. So we're going to come under here, but because of the big tyres, we actually have to come along, then in to clear the tyres, and then back out the back here. So those linkage arms will come off. Someone's put Cat 2 balls there at one stage. Like I say, the rock shaft and the seat, the whole fiberglass seat, it will come away. We're not going to bother with that anymore. This roll frame, I've got to work on these bolts. They're a bit seized, but that mudguard's all rotted out, so we're not going to worry about that. Down inside there that you can't really see where the brake rod comes out, the Welsh plug's gone, so all these hips have to come off. The gearbox is coming out. There's where something fell on the fuel tank and that leaks, so we're going to fix that. The power steering hoses are going to be repaired. I'll just come around this post here. Now, there's our new fuel tank. There's our new front base weight. That's the final drive off the 6-speed. The engine off the 6-speed sitting here, the front bolster's done on the 6-speed. But when we come in through the front here, you can see down in here the pulley's broken. We have a new pulley to go on it, and you can see the brazing in here, where it's a bit hard for you to see really, where the front axle's been all bolted together again. So that's coming out. Now this is the job where they've made it high clearance. Pretty shitty. So we're going to replace that. Now this is the new kingpin housing, and the kingpin housing on the later tractor, where the thrust washer goes up here, it comes up here and your bearing, the back of the bearing's out in the open, so I didn't like that, so I've actually machined up this collar, and this collar is going to be sat in the correct position. We're going to work out how much we have to machine out of the back here to give us our steering stops, and that should come down and protect the bearings from rain and moisture and all that sort of thing. Over here is a complete new front bolster. That's the front axle, the whole bit. We're not going to get halfway through the bush and hit a bump and have something break. So we have the whole new bolster to put on the tractor, so hopefully that bolts straight on. This is a box of new kingpins, linkage arms, flashing lights, all sorts of knickknacks just for the 135s. There's a new mudguard for the 135 6-speed there, and in front of my John Deere 420 there's another one for the 6-speed. Now I have this old set of mudguards. They're old and weather beaten, but they're in good order really, and you can see the rubbish on top. I've been playing with the lights. So these square mudguards, I've got them set up here so I can actually work out the height and all that sort of thing. So we'll probably end up with some sort of lights like that. I'll try and find a bit nicer lights if I can. That hoop type roll frame, that'll probably go onto it, and with the square mudguards. The square mudguards are a slightly different bracket down the bottom. They're an aftermarket guard, very strong down the bottom end, so they should do nicely for our trekking tractor with a flat top, and it also gives us a place around the front here to put indicators and things like that on it. So where the round mudguard doesn't give you so much of that. So the square mudguards are going to get all sandblasted, and that's what's going on the tractor. Now in my shed here I have the John Deere 420, and these are upcoming projects. 4-cylinder 35. Oh, that's a deluxe. Farmwell 100. 4-cylinder 35 standard. Another 4-cylinder 35 deluxe. But in through here, there's our new grills, our brake shoes, the steering hoses, and all sorts of Fergie stuff in through here. This is where I store the parts just so I can work out where they are. That's a T20 engine we've done recently, and it's up out of the way so we can concentrate on the 135s. So we've even got the alternator there that we're playing with brackets trying to work all that out. So hopefully it's an interesting video series for everyone, and yeah, feel free to follow along and like, subscribe, share and all that sort of thing. So we'll see how it all ends up, eh?